see you again and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Okay, I believe it's recording.
Yeah, it's recording now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Devin, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Devin Diaz. I'm the Community and Economic Development Manager for the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments.
Great. We'll go to Veronica last. David.
Hi, my name is David. I am part-time mobile vendor coordinator for the Port of Kennewick, Columbia Gardens, Clover Island, and Vista Field.
Thank you. Jeff.
My name is Jeff Wagner. I'm a transportation planner with the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments.
Thanks, Jeff. Olivia.
Hi, Olivia. I'm also a transportation planner at Benton-Franklin Council of Governments.
Thank you. Sarah, please.
Sarah Funk. I am the Secretary and Treasurer of Benton City Revitalization Organization out here in Benton City. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And Tony, please.
Hi, my name's Tony. I'm with the City of Prosser, and I'm the Finance Director here.
All right, thanks, Tony. Okay, Veronica, would you introduce yourself, and then you have the floor.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate your time this morning. My name is Roni Baer, and I am the Business and Cooperatives Program Specialist for Rural Development in Yakima. I'm not sure, some of you I'm familiar with, some of us we've worked together in the past, some of you are new. Most of the time when I used to do this meeting, I would actually come to your office and do the presentation. So I'm just going to give you a small amount of information today on rural development. We administer over 40 different programs under our agency, and so it's difficult to speak about all of them at the same time or in one particular meeting. Most of what I'm going to be focusing on today are programs that either are beneficial to businesses located within your towns or communities, as well as grant programs that are available to public bodies. And then just a little bit of overview of a couple other programs that I actually don't work in, but I have some general knowledge on. So the first slide talks about what Business and Cooperatives Program mission is. We look to always increase the quality of life in rural America, increase economic opportunity, and then we stimulate business creation and growth, and then support energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, as well as cooperative development and support for those co-ops. And then we facilitate integrated value-added agriculture. So those are our core missions that go in conjunction with the programs that we administer in business and cooperatives programs. Our program director is Brandon Hoffman. He is in Mount Vernon, and we have specialists all over the state. However, I've only listed, excuse me, the two of us that are in Eastern Washington, so that you have our contact. Mike is in Wenatchee, and then obviously I'm in Yakima. If I'm not available, she can always help answer a question. And then obviously if either one of us weren't available, you could certainly reach out to Brandon, our program director. So our main flagship.
I'm sorry, Ronnie.
Sure.
Sorry, Ronnie. I just realized that we may have individuals in the waiting room for this meeting, and I was wondering if you could make me a co-host.
Is that under remote control?
I think if you click under my name in the chat, in the participants, under more.
Let's see.
Yeah, if you click participants, you get the list of individuals in the meeting, and then if you scroll to my name, you can click the blue more button, and it might say make a co-host. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Apologize to Ronnie.
Sure, no problem. We never use Zoom. We use Microsoft Teams, so I'm not very familiar with it. Anyway, as I was saying, the Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan Program is what's considered to be our flagship in business and cooperatives programs. And I'll give you more of an overview of that in a few minutes. Rural Energy for America program, or REAP, is another topic that we're going to talk about today, as well as the Rural Business Development Grant, or an RBDG. We do have an acronym for every one of our programs. And so sometimes people are unaware of what that program involves and what it actually means. So the Guaranteed B&I Loan Program is a program where the loans are made to rural small businesses to create or retain jobs in rural communities and bolster the existing private credit structure to increase available capital to the rural small businesses. And essentially by doing that, it's driving economic growth in rural communities. Who makes those loans is anybody or any lender that's a federally chartered or a state bank, someone that is federally regulated. Farm credit banks can utilize our program, credit unions, or banks that are for cooperatives only. Eligible borrowers under the Guaranteed B&I program are for-profit businesses, nonprofits, cooperatives, federally recognized tribes, public bodies, and then individuals. They can be for the use of machinery and equipment, permanent working capital, a business acquisition. The business must be located in an eligible rural area. And the eligibility website I have listed here is a link for checking all of our programs of whether an area is located in an eligible area. Unfortunately, under rural development's definition for rural eligibility, we have a program that does not have one size fits all for every program. It varies and it's very confusing. So we try to encourage people to use our eligibility website. You can click in and input an address of a location, and then you can actually drill down into that if you keep clicking on the map, if you're on the overview of the maps website, if you keep clicking on it, you'll start to see that there are areas that are shaded a darker color. Those colors are how an eligibility site is determined. It's determined by a census tract. And it's very unfortunate, but often one side of the road can be an eligible area. Across the street is not. Did somebody have a question?
Yeah. Oh, somebody just asked about the PowerPoint, whether we'd be able to send that out, and we'll work on getting that out after the meeting.
All right. And then after if I have time, I will try to take you to the eligibility website so that you can see it at the end of the PowerPoint. But as I started to say, it changes from program to program. So for business and cooperatives programs, our population limit is 50,000 or less, unless it's an area that's contiguous to a population that exceeds that 50,000. So in Eastern Washington, we have 3 areas that are have issues with eligibility. So Yakima, Tri-Cities, and Spokane are all areas that are very limited on eligibility. So you need to be aware of that when we're talking about business programs. For the small cities that are located within the Council of Government, Prosser, Benton City, Connell, is Clovis part of your guys' area? Walla Walla, Burbank, all of those areas, Dayton, they're all eligible. Where we run into issues primarily is the Tri-Cities proper. And as the area is growing, it's continuing to reduce the eligibility area that we have down there. But there are still small areas that can be utilizing the B&I program. Rural Energy for America, or the REAP program, is a program that offers either guaranteed loans or grants for the installation of either a renewable energy system or energy efficiency improvements to a business's structure. 25% of the total project cost is the maximum grant funds available per project. And eligible applicants for this are either rural small businesses as defined by SBA standards or agricultural producers. Our definition for an agricultural producer is a business or an individual that has more than $50,000 a year coming from the production of agriculture. Under the rural small business, the business has to be located in an eligible area. However, an agricultural producer does not have to be located in an eligible rural area. So some of those agricultural producers that are located within the Tri-Cities could be eligible for obtaining a grant or a guaranteed loan. I've done I didn't include a lot of projects in my PowerPoint with pictures today, but when we're talking about REAP, this particular project is Hamilton Cellars, which is located in Benton City, but they originally started their project where they wanted to be net zero. We did a combination of solar hot water and solar PV, and they were, after their first year, they weren't quite at zero, so they came back and got some additional grant and funding from us. But you can see up at the top, that's going around the top of this whole entire building, is the panels for the solar PV as well as the solar hot water. They utilize that solar hot water obviously in their bottling, and they also have a tasting room now, as well as they use the solar hot water for heating. They use that heat in the winter for heating their tasting room. And they eventually got to net zero with their project. The next one is Pepper Bridge Winery. This is a winery that's located in Walla Walla. You can see this was a very large solar array. This was a big project, but it reduced their overall cost by about 46% at the initial onset of this project. They're done with their reporting requirements to us, so I'm not really sure how it is at this point, but it was ultimately their goal, again, to reduce as much cost for their energy consumption as possible. This was a small project that we did numerous years ago. This is Clark's Heights Family Foods, small grocery store that we did some new improvements for freezers and compressors for the grocery store. The most telling story for me in regards to this project is when I did the follow-up with the store manager, and he told me that this project saved them about $450 a month in electricity, which enabled them to hire an additional part-time employee staff. So again, this was a pretty small project. It only got about $11,000 worth of grant funds, but energy efficiency improvements can be anything that is going to reduce the borrowers or the grantees' consumption of fuels. The fuels could be gas, diesel, electricity. We do a lot of lighting projects on energy efficiency. We've done tons of variable drive frequency motors on wells for agricultural producers that reduce their overall consumption of electricity and ultimately save them money in the long run. The Rural Business Development Grant is a grant that is available to either nonprofits, public bodies, Native American tribes, and it's to support the development of small and emerging businesses. In Washington State, our allocation of grant funds that we receive for this program is typically about $500,000, with average grants between $25,000 and $30,000. This grant program also has additional set-asides that are provided funding from our national office that doesn't take from this allocation. It could be if a project was made in a persistent poverty area, we could potentially fund projects in that. We have disaster funding if a project would be located in a community that's under a federally recognized disaster. Unfortunately, COVID doesn't count for that, as well as the what's known as Sec B or the 6025. That's the NOFA, John, that you mentioned the other day, and this is a particular set aside that is funded for the Rural Business Development Grant. And these projects are, when you apply for your Rural Business Development Grant, then you can list that you're applying for the Section 6025. If a project is funded from that, it really doesn't have any different application that comes to us. A project can fall under the 6025 and a guaranteed BNI, as well as the Rural Business Development Grant. It's just a different funding opportunity that money comes to us from. So what can a Rural Business Development Grant or an RBDG be used for? It can be used for a planning work, for example, a feasibility study for a business park, a training and technical assistance provided to businesses, or equipment purchases or installation for use by businesses. Tony's on from the city of Prosser. We did a project for them 2 years ago where we did a tourism study. Primarily what Prosser's tourism focus is the wineries. And the project was looking at what more or how could they improve the tourism to where they're not solely relying on that. We've done projects where we've funded business centers, maybe an economic development center is going to provide services to businesses, whether that be for, fax machines kind of antiquated now, but whatever kind of services that a business owner may need, but doesn't have availability for that type of business. Or training. We've done tons of technical assistance where universities or colleges provide technical assistance to businesses where they maybe do planning or training on QuickBooks, or we've done things with community colleges where they have done work for training for nurses in remote areas. They're doing all this learning by distance learning. So we've provided equipment for that to happen. We did another project up north where it was welders that were going to school for training. All of these, again, have to benefit a small or emerging business. One of the projects that I did for the city of Pullman was a lighting project along the walkway that goes from the university to downtown. It goes along the river there. A fairly small project, but essential to driving those people from the university down into those businesses downtown by making it safe, first of all, as well as opening that doorway to people coming to downtown Pullman instead of getting in their cars and maybe not quite making it to the downtown businesses. Another project that we just did this year that I saw a post recently on Facebook about was up in, I'm sorry, I just forgot the name of the community. It's outside of OMAC, but it's called Okanagan Alliance Group, and they've done a lot of murals on walls of businesses that are located within the town. Why would that be a benefit to small and emerging businesses? Well, as that tourism starts to come, where people come and start looking at all these murals on these walls of these businesses, then all the businesses located within that community could benefit by having an additional drive for that. So these are just a few ideas of things. I really encourage the towns or the communities that may be thinking about projects that are on the wish list, or projects that you know are coming, but maybe you're just lacking just a tiny bit of funding, or you're just not sure. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about a project. I will let you know that the Rural Business Development Grant deadline is February or March 31st, I believe. And so we encourage you to start working on that application now. I can send you the template and give you a little bit of feedback and guidance through that. On to the water and waste disposal program. This is a program that is administered by community programs. The overall program is to provide safe drinking water, sanitary service, solid waste, and water conservation. We do provide under that program either loan guarantees, which are similar to our guaranteed business and industry loan program. These are loans that a town or a community isn't considered to be non-bankable, then we can come in and help with that. So a lot of times what these bigger loans are coming through on this guarantee on this side is for nonprofits or homeowners associations that are on the outskirts of a bigger community. So populations under this program are 10,000 or less. Eligible applicants are most state and local government entities, private nonprofits, federally recognized tribes. They also have, I'm going to skip over this slide. This is out of order. I apologize. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I left out a slide. They do have on the water and waste, they have a direct loan program. So where this comes into play is for that community that is not ready to be considered a bankable loan or a guaranteed borrower. Rural development is considered in this program as a lender of last resort. So maybe they're short on some of their funding that they're getting from the state and they need additional funding. We can supply grant funding on this particular program, as well as a direct loan for any of those improvements that somebody would be making. We've done a lot with the communities in Eastern Washington in this program. I think Prosser has utilized our program. Benton City has, Connell, Colotus, Waitsburg, Dayton. Walla Walla has not, because they're too big in size, but these are all small towns. Mesa, that have gotten funding from us for their water systems or their wastewater treatment plants. The community facilities program has both a guarantee again. Community facilities is eligible applicants are public bodies, tribes, nonprofits, and it's for the purchase or installation of or construction of a facility that's essential to benefit the entire community. When you're looking at a loan guarantee on community facilities, typically these are big projects. These are hospitals or health clinics or community centers or schools or daycares, fire department, fire buildings, police stations, city halls. Those are normally going to come in under the loan guarantee program, and that's simply, again, because of the size of that project. However, they do have grant funds and a direct loan program that's available for them. And when we talk about an essential community facility, it's something that has to provide an essential service to that rural area. And their population limit is 20,000 or less. And when I talk about a facility under the community facilities program, it could also include equipment. It could include things like fire trucks, police cars. We've done projects where we have, previous to me working in this program, I worked in community programs. And so I worked with the city of Kittitas. We redid their city hall, which housed their fire department, their meeting room for their public meetings for the public. So it's anything that is essentially tied to that community. It could be a library, and it has to be open and available to all community members. But there's a lot of different components that can go into a community facilities program. Daycares are eligible as long as the applicant is either a state, local, private, nonprofit, or a federally recognized tribe. The last program that I'm going to talk about today is our single family housing loan program. Our program is providing low interest fixed rate home ownership loans for qualified people by rural development. They're either through a guaranteed loan, or we do have a direct program where loans are actually made through rural development for the purchase of a home. It does have to be in an eligible rural area. Population limit on this is 20,000. These are fixed rate loans and terms that typically are not available. There's no down payment required on our home ownership loans. And on some loans, we can even finance up to 103% loan to value if there was improvements that needed to be made for the borrower. Borrowers are, they do have to pay their closing costs, but we do have projects where we've done what's considered self-help. We had some of that in Prosser years ago, where families worked together to build their homes. And then we, like I said, have just direct loans where people are approved for a dollar amount and can go out and find a home and have that financed directly through the agency, or the guaranteed loan that is financed through a bank. Our direct loan program under the single family housing is for low to very low income people. Sorry. And the guaranteed loan is for low to moderate income families. So there are still some areas around the perimeter of the Tri-Cities that would still be eligible for the single family housing, but the eligibility website would tell you whether somebody's eligible for that. Additionally, under the single family housing, we have a repair program, which is loans or grants, and it's to provide funds to elderly and very low income homeowners to remove health and safety hazards, or do repairs or modernize the home, make it accessible for somebody with disability, or make more energy efficiency improvements. These programs are have limited funding in the form of grant. However, we do encourage people to, or towns or communities to let their homeowners know that this is a project that's available. We've done lots of projects through the years in some of these older homes that sometimes we can't do it all, but we can at least make a difference for these people and save them money for their bills, or potentially make their home accessible with ADA improvements. I've given in this in your slide deck the contacts for community programs. Marty Kanatsi works in Yakima. She's a community program specialist. Rick Rose is in Spokane, and then the program director is Connie Reynolds, and she's in Olympia. If you have interest in any of the community programs projects, feel free to reach out to me first if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to the specialists that I've listed on here. But I know that Marty has worked with a lot of people in the past that are on this call. She's very involved with the work that happens in her service area, and always works hard to help people, as well as Rick and Rose do the same. Under our single family housing contact information, Kirsten Beeman is a housing specialist in Yakima. Patty Grant is a housing specialist in Spokane. Tyson Hintz is a housing specialist in Wenatchee. And then Trudy Teeter is our single family housing program director. I've given you all of their contacts. Feel free to pass it on to anybody who's interested in housing. And again, if you're unable to reach them, or if you prefer to contact me first, I can connect you with whoever can help you with any questions that you may have in regards to our housing program. So that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions.
Okay. Well,
And
great. Thank you so much, Roni. And just before we have questions for Roni, I know we have at least a few. For those of you not COG staff, could you write your email, please, in the chat, just in case you're not on the email invite, and I'll make sure that you get all the documents that were sent out earlier this week, the PDFs, which provide additional information about the programs that Roni talked about in this PowerPoint. So if you can do that before we close up today, that'd be wonderful. And Sarah, would you like to start off? You wrote a question in the chat. What is the funding cycle for REAP? Is it annual? What are the key deadlines? And if Sarah, if you want to add anything to that, go ahead.
okay, so there are the REAP funding comes to us from the Farm Bill. There are annual deadlines. The first one, or the most recent one that just occurred, was November 2nd. And so the next application deadline will be March 31. If someone is interested in applying, we just have them reach out to me. I can email them the application. Again, it's for either the purchase or installation of a renewable energy system, or for energy efficiency improvements for a business or an agricultural producer. I will tell you that if somebody is looking at doing this type of project, they really should have some kind of idea of cost of this project, because the applications are determined by the amount of the total project cost. So for instance, the application deadline that just happened was for what's considered our smallest projects, $80,000 or less, which is for a grant amount of $20,000 or less. So we have set aside money that's for that particular pot of money. And then we have what's considered unrestricted, is everything over $20,000 worth of grant. I will tell you that on that program, on a renewable energy system, the minimum grant amount available is $2,500 with a maximum of $500,000. On an energy efficiency improvement, it's $1,500 minimum grant with a max of $250,000. Years ago, when this project or this program first came out, we were able to fund $500,000 worth of grant money on those big projects. Now, it doesn't happen anymore. The whole program has taken off throughout the country, and there's just not enough funding available. So if somebody's talking about a big, huge project, I encourage them to reach out to us sooner rather than later. That doesn't mean that we can't do a lot. Last year in my service area, I had 14 REAP applications, and we were able to fund all but one of those. So it is typically our state allocation for REAP is about $1 million total. Last year it went down a little bit. It was at about $879,000, but there's always an opportunity to maybe get a project funded through the National Office Reserves when they take back money.
Okay, great. Other questions, go ahead.
Okay, doesn't look like we have any more, but I do want to mention again, I did speak quickly about that RBDG, but I want the towns, economic development districts, cities that are on this call. This is an opportunity for some of that planning that needs to be done. Maybe it's a downtown revitalization project that you're looking at. A consultant can be hired that can come in and assess the community, determine the best way for the improvements to be made, what needs to be made. If there's a lighting project that needs to happen to make the downtown more accessible, safer, sidewalks. We've done sidewalks in years past. We can do ADA improvements to public buildings as long as it's going to benefit a small and emerging business. The RBDG is always oversubscribed. We always get more applications than we can fund, but there's a lot of deserving projects, I think, in our service area when we're talking about the people that are on this call that I think that could probably benefit overall from this potential grant. So I'm going to try and show you the eligibility website. Okay, can everybody still see my screen? I'm assuming
Yeah, we see the PowerPoint.
that's all you're seeing is the PowerPoint. You're not seeing my screen that says USDA Department of Agriculture.
No.
No, we're seeing this, their same original PowerPoint.
All right, let me try go back and see if I can show you that. Okay, how about now? Okay, perfect. So as you can see across the top of this is all of the programs. As I said before, we have population limits that change by program. So when we're talking about rural small business, we're going to click on here, and since we're going to talk about RBDG, let's just use this particular map here. You do have to agree to accept whatever they put on here, but I am going to type in what's the address of the COG?
587 Stevens Drive, Richland. Stevens.
Okay, so you can see that when this comes up that it's an immediately an ineligible area, right? Can everybody see that? Okay, so if you notice how this is just a little bit darker color, I'm going to zoom out first, okay? This is just by using my mouse, scrolling out. And you can see that, let me click that out. You can't see that. So you can see the definition of how these areas are all darker colors versus this. So everything that's out here in this lighter color is eligible. But when we start scrolling down, you can click in however your mouse is going to work. You start to see areas that are eligible. So if this is Burns Roads right here, everything out here is all eligible except for right here. Again, this is all defined by census tract. West Richland, I know, is a bone of contention, but you can see this area in here is eligible. And here. We've done a lot of projects out here. We've done grants for REAP grants on some solar hot water, as well as we've done some guaranteed B&I loans on a corn crushing facility that's out there. So the map is really user friendly, or maybe it is for me, but you can always check no matter what program. They're all listed up here, of what you're interested in, of who is eligible. Now, on a water and environmental guaranteed, as well as community facilities guaranteed, because we had some changes to the program last year, it's now known as 1RD guaranteed lending. If an applicant is applying for a guaranteed loan under those programs, their population restriction is now 50,000. If they're trying to do a direct, then it would still comply with their original 10,000 and 20,000. But under that guaranteed program, and this is essential to maybe a hospital or something like that that's in an eligible area for our B&I program, but not under the community programs, then they could potentially get funding through rural development under that. Okay. Any other questions that I can answer for you guys?
Devin, do you have a question?
Thank you, John. And thank you, Roni. I looked through some of the notice of funding opportunities, I think earlier this week. And I was just hoping you might be able to share with the group on what some of the triggers are between receiving a loan versus a grant. I know that the program I was looking at, I think the trigger was based on individuals or households living below the median income within the region, and that again determined whether it would be a USDA loan versus a USDA grant. And I was hoping you might be able to elaborate on that, please.
Okay, so you're talking about either the water and environmental program or even the community program, whether especially in the water and environmental program, it becomes essential to what the median household income is for that area. Because depending on what level percentage of the population or the households that live below that or below poverty level will determine how much that project is eligible for grant funding. And so that is, in certain areas, if there isn't true information from the census data, they can go out and find, they do an actual analysis, literally a door-by-door type thing that they send out to the people who live in the area. Oftentimes, when that happens, maybe it doesn't come out the way they exactly thought it was going to happen. But I will say that there are under our programs, there's a lot of work that happens in the water and waste that works in conjunction with the state of Washington. Money that gets funded from CURB, CDBG, as well as Department of Ecology. All of them work together in conjunction with rural development. So a project often is going to have all of those, or maybe part of those components that come into play. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly where that cutoff is on that limitation for the grant. Or what that interest rate is. Marty's the person who does that, and she could certainly help you with that. But that's the gist of how that comes about. And then I will say this, let me add this, that under community programs, under the community facilities side, they have very limited grant funding available. So if you have a police department, let's say the city of Prosser was going to come and they wanted all grant for the purchase of a new police car, and that was $50,000. They don't have maybe $250,000 for the entire state in grant funding, so it's very limited, and so they don't have the opportunity to put a lot of grant funds available. They will always look at loan first. But I will tell you that the loans under both water and waste and community programs can be up to 40 years. So that gives communities the option to have a lower interest rate in the longer term to make things affordable. And then the one thing I did forget to tell you, under single family housing, they can go up to 33 years as well on some of those individuals who are pretty tight on their income. So there's a lot of different options. I've just given you a snippet really of the many programs that rural development offers. And like I said, we administer over 40. I'm happy to talk to you about anything that you see online that you may have questions about, or projects that we've done in the past, or things that people are looking at to do.
Are there any other questions for Roni? Okay, well, hearing none, I really appreciate Roni, you joining us here and giving this really great presentation and all the documents. And I really thank everyone else who attended this conference, this meeting. And this meeting is being recorded. And once we have a copy, we will upload to our YouTube channel. And I will send that link plus all the documents and eventually Roni's PowerPoint, if we're able to get that in a separate email to everyone.
I hope to be able to convert that to a PDF.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Which will get it to where I can send it through email. We just have restrictions on how much the size of an email we can send.
Okay, great. That works great. Appreciate it. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You.